They called him the Ghost. Not because he scared anyone, but because no one ever noticed him. Every morning, at 5 a.m. sharp, he pushed his cleaning cart down the long, silent halls of St. Vincent Hospital. The floor tiles gleamed because of him. The trash bins never overflowed because of him. The coffee spills, the muddy boot prints, the forgotten biohazard bags, he handled them all. Quietly. Precisely. And yet, not a single doctor, nurse, or even patient knew his name. He wasn't invited to lunch. No one said good morning. They just passed by, eyes on charts, eyes on screens, eyes anywhere but him. But he noticed everything. He saw the nervous tremble in the young nurse's hands when she drew blood. He noticed the surgeon's habit of checking his phone between operations. He memorized the monitor sounds, every beep, every silence. He even timed how long it took certain doctors to respond to code blue. And every night, when the halls were empty, he read medical books, anatomy charts, surgical manuals. Some he found in the hospital's recycling bin, others he borrowed from the library miles away. He'd spend hours practicing sutures on pieces of raw chicken, studying human physiology until his eyes burned. Not for glory. Not for recognition. But because deep inside, he knew, one day, he might need it. And that day came sooner than he expected. In room 413, a man named Samuel Walters had been lying in a coma for 5 years. No visitors. No family. Just a body, alive but broken. Some doctors said he was a vegetable. Others said he felt pain but couldn't show it. The truth was, no one really cared anymore. They gave him medications, cleaned his feeding tubes, and waited for nature to finish what fate had started. But the janitor? He watched Samuel. He noticed the tiny flinches in his fingers. The flicker in his eyelids during certain hours. The subtle way his heart monitor shifted whenever loud voices passed by. Something wasn't right. And then, one night, it happened. 3:17 a.m. The janitor was mopping the hallway when he heard a strange alarm coming from room 413. Not the usual beep. It was urgent. Fast. Wrong. He rushed in. Samuel's body was seizing. Monitors spiked. His chest rose rapidly, too rapidly. A nurse ran in, followed by a sleepy resident. But they hesitated. Unsure. Scared. And then Samuel flatlined. Everything in the janitor screamed, do something. He looked at the tray of unused instruments. He looked at the doctors, frozen. So he moved. He pushed the doctor aside, grabbed a scalpel, and whispered under his breath, "You're not dying tonight." Everything in the room froze. The heart monitor had gone silent. Samuel Walters, the man who had been lying in a coma for 5 years, was flatlining. The nurse backed away in panic. The resident stared at the screen, completely paralyzed. No one moved. Except the janitor. He stepped forward. "Step back," he said calmly, as if he wasn't holding a scalpel in his gloved hand. You can't," the young doctor stammered. "You're not qualified." But he didn't hear them. Not really. All the nights he'd spent studying, all the hours he practiced surgical hand movements on meat, rubber models, even sponges, it all came rushing back in a split second. He had one shot. He made a swift incision between the ribs, right above the heart. The nurse gasped. "He's insane," someone screamed. But the janitor kept going, guiding a tube into Samuel's chest, draining fluid that had been silently suffocating him for days. He used clamps. Gauze. He created an airway. He applied pressure exactly where needed. The monitor blinked. Then again. And then, beep, beep, beep. A heartbeat. Weak, but steady. For a moment, no one breathed. The room, filled with professionals, had just witnessed the impossible. Not by a doctor. Not by a surgeon. But by a man they never even looked at twice. He slowly removed his gloves, set the instruments down, and said, his lungs were collapsing. "You didn't see it." "I did." Minutes later, security dragged him out of the room in handcuffs. The next day, headlines exploded. Hospital janitor performs unauthorized surgery. Untrained staff member nearly kills coma patient. Shocking violation in St. Vincent Hospital. The hospital tried to cover itself. They called his actions dangerous, irresponsible, even criminal. The administration wanted him prosecuted. He was suspended, then formally charged with reckless endangerment and impersonating medical staff. In the interrogation room, detectives asked again and again. "Why did you do it? Who told you how? Did you plan this?" He answered the same way every time. "I knew he was dying. I couldn't let it happen, not when I saw what you didn't." They laughed. "You're a janitor. A floor cleaner. Who are you to decide who lives or dies?" But what they didn't know was, this janitor had studied medicine in another country before his visa was revoked. He'd been 2 exams away from becoming a licensed doctor. But life had hit hard. Immigration troubles. Family illness. Debt. He took the only job he could get, cleaning floors in the very place he once dreamed of working as a surgeon. No one ever asked. No one ever knew. Now, they only saw a man who broke the rules, not the life he saved. And while the public tore him apart in the media, no one noticed that in a small, quiet hospital room, Samuel began to move. His fingers twitched. His eyes fluttered. For the first time in 5 years, there was brain activity. Nurses couldn't believe it. The very man they had all given up on, was waking up. And the person who saved him? Behind bars, waiting for a court date. It began with a flicker. A twitch in Samuel Walter's right hand. No one saw it at first. Nurses were busy. Machines beeped quietly. For 5 long years, he had been nothing more than a silent figure in a hospital bed, breathing, but not living. But then, his fingers curled slightly. His eyelids trembled. And when his eyes finally opened, the world tilted. The nurse on duty gasped and nearly dropped her chart. He's awake," she cried out, stumbling back toward the hallway. Within seconds, a flood of doctors and staff rushed into the room. Some stared in disbelief. Others frantically checked monitors and vitals. One nurse gently leaned over him. "Samuel. Can you hear me?" she asked softly. He blinked. His lips parted. A whisper escaped. "Water." The room froze. The first word in 5 years. Machines lit up with stable vitals. Brain activity surged. Oxygen levels normalized. The man everyone had given up on, had returned. And the question everyone started asking was simple. How? Meanwhile, just down the hall, the janitor sat in a locked office. Under security watch. His wrists were bruised from the cuffs. His name was Eric, though most staff never bothered to learn it. No one thanked him. No one asked if he was okay. He had been suspended. Accused. Labeled a criminal. All he had said during questioning was, "His lungs were collapsing. I recognized the signs. I couldn't wait." They didn't believe him. "You're not a doctor," they spat. "You're a janitor. You could have killed him." But Eric had seen things others missed. He'd once been a medical student overseas. He had passed surgical anatomy, clinical rotations, trauma care. But his life had unraveled when his mother fell ill and he returned home. By the time he came back, his visa had expired, and the dream was over. Still, the knowledge remained. He couldn't afford a second chance, so he took a job cleaning the very hospital he had once dreamed of working in. Every night, he'd mop the halls, but study the books he found left behind in break rooms. He memorized procedures. Watched surgeries online. Practiced silently in the shadows. He never told anyone. Because who would believe the janitor could be a surgeon? But now, someone was waking up. And the man waking up, remembered. Samuel's voice was weak, but clear. There was, someone, he told the doctor. Someone holding my hand. They showed him photos of surgeons. Nurses. Residents. He shook his head. Then they showed him Eric's photo. That's him, Samuel whispered. He saved me. The hospital board panicked. Media requests flooded in. What happened? Who authorized the procedure? Why was a janitor in the operating area? Headlines exploded. Miracle recovery after coma. Hospital janitor saves dying man, faces charges. Hero or criminal? Staff member breaks protocol to save life. Public opinion shifted almost overnight. People demanded answers. Some demanded justice, for Eric. Even doctors began to whisper in private. He made the right call. He did what none of us dared to. Maybe, we judged him too quickly. And while the hospital scrambled to protect its image, Samuel recovered more each day. His speech returned. His memory cleared. He asked for updates on Eric every morning. When he learned Eric had been suspended and arrested, he grew furious. He didn't endanger my life, Samuel said to the press. He gave it back to me. In 1 week, the janitor no one ever noticed, had become the center of a national conversation. But to Eric, it didn't matter. He never wanted fame. He didn't want applause. He only wanted to do the right thing, when no one else was brave enough to act. The courtroom was packed. Journalists lined the back wall. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but that didn't stop them from recording reactions outside. Protesters and supporters had gathered near the steps of the courthouse, holding signs. Let him go. A hero, not a criminal. Doctors failed. He didn't. And in the center of it all, sat Eric. Still in plain clothes. Still quiet. Still humble. He didn't look like a man trying to be famous. He looked tired. The prosecution was brutal. He is not a licensed physician, the lawyer snapped. He violated hospital protocol. Entered a restricted area. Performed a procedure with no authority. They painted him as reckless. Dangerous. A man who gambled with a life that wasn't his to save. But then the defense stood up. And everything changed. Eric's lawyer didn't shout. He didn't point fingers. He simply told the truth. This man, he said, turning toward Eric, did not ask for recognition. He didn't do this for money. He acted when no one else would. Because a man was dying. Because he had the knowledge. And because the system left him no way to help, except by breaking the rules. Then he played the hospital footage. Grainy black and white video. Eric sprinting through the hallway. Medical staff standing back. The moment he pressed the alarm. The moment he began chest compressions. And the moment he took the scalpel. The jury watched in stunned silence. Then came the testimonies. Doctors, the same ones who once dismissed him, now admitted the truth. He saw the signs before we did. His cut was perfect. Right between the ribs. I would have hesitated. He didn't. A nurse wiped tears from her eyes. He was the only one who stayed calm. And finally, Samuel himself took the stand. He spoke softly, but every word echoed. I owe him my life. I don't know the rules. I only know that when I was dying, his was the voice I heard. He didn't see a hopeless case. He saw me. The entire room fell silent. The verdict came 2 hours later. Not guilty. Applause broke out. Reporters rushed outside. Social media exploded. Newspaper, Janitor cleared of all charges. Newspaper, the man who saved a life, and almost lost his freedom. Newspaper, unlicensed hero or system failure. But Eric? He didn't celebrate. He walked out slowly, quietly, blinking at the sunlight. One reporter called out, "What's next for you?" He paused. "I don't know," he said. "But I know I did the right thing. That's enough for me." Yet the world wasn't done with him. That evening, an email landed in Eric's inbox. Subject, Fellowship Opportunity, Urgent. It was from one of the biggest medical research centers in the country. They had seen his story. They reviewed his background. They wanted to offer him a fully funded path to become a licensed surgeon. No conditions. No publicity. Just one sentence. "We believe in second chances." Eric had never left his hometown. His world was hospital corridors and a small one-room apartment above a grocery store. But now, everything was changing. He boarded the train alone. Just one bag. No fanfare. No press. Only a folded letter in his pocket, offering a place in a prestigious surgical program, one that didn't care about his past, only his passion. The medical center was everything he'd dreamed of. Glass walls. High-tech labs. Halls filled with students and surgeons who moved like they belonged. For the first week, Eric barely spoke. He attended lectures. Took notes. Practiced late into the night on training dummies. The professors were strict, but fair. They didn't see a janitor, they saw a mind ready to work. And Eric flourished. His hands were precise. His decisions sharp. His instincts, refined from years in the shadows, shocked even the senior doctors. "What's your background?" one surgeon asked him. Eric smiled faintly. Unconventional. But even here, whispers followed him. "You're the guy from the news, right? Did you really cut someone open with no license? Man, you've got guts." Eric just nodded, never defending or denying. He wasn't here for stories. He was here to earn what the world once said he didn't deserve. And slowly, respect replaced doubt. Then came the unexpected. During a hospital seminar, a group of visiting physicians arrived to observe new techniques. One of them, a tall, confident man in an expensive suit, stepped into the room. Eric froze. It was Dr. Langford. The same senior doctor who once tried to have him arrested. The same man who had called him a janitor with delusions. Dr. Langford didn't recognize him at first. Why would he? He never looked him in the eye before. But now. Eric stood at the front of the room, presenting a new emergency airway technique. Calm. Professional. Authoritative. Langford blinked. His expression twisted. "You," he said slowly. Eric nodded once. "Yes. Me." There was a long silence. Then Langford cleared his throat. "Impressive technique," he muttered, before stepping back. That moment was small. But to Eric, it meant everything. The man who once tried to destroy his future, had just acknowledged his brilliance. Months passed. Exams came and went. Eric passed every one. He was invited to assist in real operations. His name appeared on research papers. Students began coming to him with questions. Even professors sought his opinion. He still walked with quiet humility. But something had changed. He believed in himself. Then, one evening, as he walked home under the city lights, his phone buzzed. A call from a familiar number. "Samuel?" Eric asked, picking up. "Still alive," came the reply with a chuckle. "Thanks to you." They talked for half an hour, about life, health, strange hospital food. At the end, Samuel said, "I hope you know. I tell everyone your story. My daughter says she wants to be a doctor because of you." Eric's eyes burned. "Thank you," he whispered. Later that night, Eric stood at his window, looking at the stars. He wasn't rich. He didn't have fame. But he had purpose. And that, finally, was enough. The auditorium was packed. It had been months since the story of the janitor who saved a life made headlines. But now, he was no longer just the janitor. He was Eric Carter, top of his class, the first ever to receive the Courage in Medicine award from the National Surgical Association. And tonight, he stood on stage. Not with a mop. Not in the shadows. But in a tailored suit, behind a microphone, under a golden spotlight. The crowd stood in applause. He wasn't used to clapping. He wasn't used to attention. But tonight, it didn't scare him. The speaker before him had told the story, how a patient in a 5-year coma had woken up thanks to an unlicensed hospital janitor. How the system tried to punish him. How the world stood up and changed the rules. Then came Eric's turn to speak. He looked over the crowd. Medical students. Journalists. Survivors. Lawmakers. Even a few hospital CEOs who once refused to return his emails. He spoke softly. But every word hit deep. "I wasn't supposed to be here," he began. "People like me don't get second chances. I cleaned floors while dreaming of saving lives. And one day, I was faced with a choice, follow rules, or follow what I knew was right." He paused. "I didn't ask for cameras. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I asked for the chance to prove that compassion matters more than titles." The room fell silent. "I didn't save a life because I was a doctor. I saved it because I was human." After the ceremony, people came up to shake his hand. He met senators, surgeons, even celebrities. But the one person who truly stunned him was an older woman in a wheelchair. "You saved my son," she whispered, eyes glistening. It was Samuel's mother. She handed him a small gift. Inside was a necklace, a single silver key. "He always wanted you to have this." He said it belonged to someone who opened doors for others. Eric couldn't speak. He simply hugged her. A week later, a letter arrived. No cameras. No press. Just a personal invitation. From one of the top private children's hospitals in the world. They had watched Eric's progress. Read every article. Watched every seminar. They wanted him on their surgical team. Full time. Full salary. Full support. His name would be on the door. His badge would say, "Doctor." And his story would never be forgotten. On his first day at the new hospital, a young boy sat nervously in the waiting room. His parents whispered to him that the best doctor in the country would see him soon. Then Eric walked in. Not in a suit. Not in scrubs. Just in a clean, calm uniform. Simple. Kind. Quiet. The boy's eyes widened. "You're the guy from TV," he whispered. Eric smiled. "I'm the guy who's going to help you feel better." That night, Eric walked alone through the now silent corridors of his new workplace. The walls were white. The air smelled like fresh polish. He paused beside a janitor mopping the floors. "Hard work," Eric said kindly. The man looked up, surprised. "Yeah. It is." Eric nodded, smiled, and kept walking. He would never forget where he came from. He would never forget who he was. Speech balloon final message. Don't ever judge someone by their job title, their clothes, or their silence. Because sometimes, the janitor knows more than the surgeon. And sometimes, the hero is the one no one saw coming.